All right, round 2 here with mono black reanimation. Lost the die roll this time. I think that might be fine. We're a combo deck. The speed is kind of important, but extra cards are pretty sweet too. Sometimes an extra card is better than being on the play. So we have Shallow Grave Brutality. If we can hit our 4th land, we can throw an Ulamog at my opponent. Seems fine enough to keep. Oh wait, we can just go turn 2 Brutality. What am I saying? This card does not shuffle back in. That's only going to mill my opponent for 20, which isn't necessarily a game winner. But sometimes it's pretty good. See what we draw here as well. Ooh, Urborg plus Bazaar. That seems great. Yeah, I'm going to run out the Bazaar because we have Urborg Bazaar here. That's really good. That means we can turn 1, play Bazaar, and really not hurt ourselves as far as the land drops. Whereas otherwise playing Bazaar really does hurt us because it means that we otherwise wouldn't have access to 3 or 2 mana until turn 3. But now we'll have 2 mana on turn 2. All right, a second Plains from my opponent. Knight of the White Orchid. Well, they have more lands than us, certainly. We've got 0 lands and they've got 1. Let's loot with Bazaar. This is really close. We can hit them for 9 poison here. We're going to Collective Brutality my opponent for sure. So if they didn't have this turn 2 creature, we'd actually have a turn 2 kill. That's super close. Throw an Ulamog in the bin in case we draw a reanimation spell here to start off with. I think I just want a Brutality and escalate it, bidding a swamp, and taking a look-see at my opponent's hand here. Alright, let's cast with Escalate. Target creature. I've never cast Collective Brutality online yet. Discarding Swamp. Kill the Knight. We can take Timely, and my opponent's going to play Awakening Zone next turn. Or Gideon of the Trials. Wait, Gideon of the Trials would suck ass. Oh my god, if my opponent makes a Gideon emblem here. Oh, there's no way they do. They're going to play Awakening Zone, right? Or tick up their Gideon at the very least. Oh, if my opponent makes a Gideon emblem, please no. Alright, Awakening Zone, that's good. Whew, that's a close one. Oh, I guess I could have never had the turn 2 kill, but I can have a turn 3 kill here. Let's play our Swamp first. We activate Bazaar, drawing 2 cards, discarding 3. We can just bin the 2 cards that we draw, along with Blightsteel Colossus. No, let's hang on to Necromancy. Wait, what happened? Oh, I'm really bad. Alright. I have 100% done this before. But Blightsteel, you can't reanimate Blightsteel. Oh my god. Okay. Blightsteel is not reanimatable. Oh my god. Okay. And now we'll just need to find a way to clear Gideon Emblem. Gideon Emblem plus Awakening Zone to block for Gideon every turn. Like, here's the most embarrassing part about this entire thing. If you watch the previous Vintage Cube drafts on my YouTube channel, I have done this before. I have tried to reanimate a Blightsteel and shallow grave it previously. It just didn't hit me until right this second. Oh, God. All right. All right, my opponent's going to take up Gideon, which means we have one turn to remove it for free. That's not really a real thing. They're going to prevent all damage that Ulamog would deal. That's fine. I just want to take a look at their deck. Ooh, and then we get to Liliana, make them sacrifice their Eldrazi spawn. That kind of helps us. Actually, maybe we just tick up with Lily. We know my opponent has another Forest in their hand. So that's all we know about. They have Forest and a random card. All right, first let's look at their entire deck. How about that? This is still good enough, luckily. Doesn't matter who we attack. We're just milling them. And then next turn, my opponent has to make a Gideon emblem. I'm not sure. This is cool that we get all this information here. But I'm not sure how we actually get out of this situation now. Liliana just trades with an Eldrazi spawn, so that seems pretty terrible. We could tick Liliana up, but then I've got to discard a rather decent card. Maybe I should have just Shallow Graved this turn, try to find Massacre Worm. But I think that's the idea. I just have to Shallow Grave and kill Gideon. So that can wait till next turn. Yeah, it might have been better this turn. Alright. So next turn we've got to kill Gideon with Shallow Grave. I'm just going to hang on to all these cards here. They're worth more as just cards to discard to help us find Massacre Worm or a relevant Shallow Grave target. Opponent's going to play Forest, and then once Ulamog mills them, it's going to be able to play defense. And then we have our entire deck worth of cards. We know my opponent has to win the game with only the 3 cards remaining in their hand. So with only Forest and 2 other cards that we don't currently know about, my opponent has to win the game. They have to make a Gideon emblem, which means Ulamog gets to deal damage, which means it's going to get chump blocked by Eldrazi spawn. Basically, that doesn't change anything. Draw 2, discard 3, draw 2, discard 3. Yeah, I can afford to Bazaar end of turn here. I should have Bazaar'd main phase 1 last turn, but I can afford to Bazaar end of turn. Liliana's going to be completely blanked by Awakening Zone, so might as well bin it. Necromancy's a fine card. We'll hang on to that one for a second. All right, our opponent concedes. So now let's take a second to look through their exile zone here. I'll just make this super big. I can see all the cards, but maybe you guys couldn't. So my opponent has an Elspeth Knight Errant. Oh, weird. The when I try to supersize the cards, they're showing up on my other monitor because this is too big. We know we're boarding out Blightsteel. Never mind, I can't make them any bigger than this. This is what my opponent's deck is. Looks like a fairly aggressive deck with some random big stuff in it. I think their deck's going to be too unfocused. We should be able to get them. None of their cards, like naming either white or green with Iona, looks like both of them will do it, to be honest. I think we want to take out our... So Blightsteel also makes Through the Breach worse, which is interesting. This just seems great against everybody. I think we're going to board out Blightskull. We almost just want to change the whole deck, though, right? Like, without Blightsteel... We could just go Oath of Druids. Oath of Druids and Through the Breach both work with Blightsteel, though, which is interesting. I think we're going to board out these cards because we didn't see any cards like this. Sweltering Suns I think is good, but I think the double red might just be too hard for the deck. I think I'm going to make the same sideboard plan that I made against our previous opponent. I'm trying to think everything I just saw. My opponent does make a decent amount of tokens, though, too. Here's Downfall also kills Planeswalkers, which is pretty sweet. If, like, Gideon of the Trials is the only way that we lose. Though, I don't think Gideon of the Trials killed us either. Is Through the Breach Blightsteel enough? Nah, we'll try it out. Still seems fun, even if it just absolutely cannot get reanimated. And you know what? It's probably pretty terrible. So we're just going to Vampiric Tutor for Rakdos Signet here, which will give us enough mana to cast everything. I believe. Our opponent is kept 7. We could also just not. But Damnation and the Abyss seem really strong against my opponent. We have until their end of turn to decide if we want to vamp or not. Ooh, Packrat. I guess that means I can just go get a reanimation spell instead. We still do need another land with Packrat, though. But it means we at least have a turn 2 play. I think I'm just going to turn 2 play Packrat here. Yeah, I maybe shouldn't have taken Blightsteel. I'll have to go back and watch the draft to see what I took Blightsteel over. That was definitely the awkward part, but now I'm kind of short on targets I can reanimate. No, Strip Mine's decent here. Pretty sure I just go get a land here then. Don't want to just lose the game. So we lose card advantage here, but we don't lose the game. Could have also just gotten Bazaar. Maybe that was better. Huh. I saw that at the last second. Yeah, maybe we should have just gotten Bazaar. Oh well. Now we need to hit a 3rd land and a reanimation spell. But opponent's not doing anything. They could have played a 2-drop last turn. Alright, Termaglyph. It's a 2-3. And Mox Pearl. That means they drew one of either Mox Pearl or Termaglyph. Probably the Mox Pearl. Yeah, Mountain seems fine. We'll be able to start activating Packrat next turn. We'll also just have Hero's Downfall and Damnation. Could have held on to Packrat like forever to see what happens, but forever is a very, very, very long time. Discarding Sphinx of the Steel Winds to make a second Packrat and then try to double block turns Tarmogoyf into a 4-5, so we don't want to do that route next turn. Don't really want a Hero's Downfall Allergoyf either, but we are going to make it rather large here, so we might have to. Like, we might also just be using Packrat as a negative card advantage spell to bin our Sphinx of the Steel Wind. At which point we're just going to, like, our game plan is just going to be the Damnation. Alright, we do get to get a land off path. That is pretty respectable then, too. Do we need a second red mana? Yeah, let's get it. Our mana's fine here. Perfect. So, Damnation or the Abyss? Let's lead with the Abyss. We'll save Damnation for Avenger of Zendikar. Or if my opponent plays a Planeswalker, we'll Damnation then to just keep it at bay. We do have Hero's Downfall still here too, so we could potentially raise something like that. Yeah, I like Abyss as well, Trash Hermit. Seems solid here. Termaglyph is also not clocking us. We never discarded Sphinx of the Steel Wind, and Vampiric Tutor and Path to Exile are both instants, and our Packrat went to exile. So Termaglyph continues to be a 2-3. Abyss is going to pump Termaglyph up to a 3/4 as they sack Kithion, keep around Termagoyf, it'll get pumped up. But I think we should be able to race this, especially with Damnation backup. This is like anything possibly goes wrong. Abyss doesn't hit artifacts, like I mentioned earlier, so it's not going to kill Sphinx of the Steel Wind once we eventually get it into play. The only card that the Abyss kills is, well, it kills Massacre Worm, and then it kills Iona as well. Hangraback Walker. Okay, well, the Abyss does not interact with artifact creatures, like I said. So that's a little bit tricky. So I think what our plan to do here is like Heroes Downfall the Hangerback Walker, and then just Damnation the tokens at some point later on. Excuse me, guys. We don't have to do that right this second. I think we're likely to want this swamp into play. Yeah, we might want to Bazaar into a 2 and 3 mana spell next turn. Alright, let's pass a turn. By letting my opponent untap, we're letting them put one more token into Hangerback Walker. It's actually not a big deal considering our plan is to Damnation the tokens anyways. The math is pretty tricky to do, like, and we also don't know if my opponent's going to just spend their turn pumping it up or spend their turn attacking with it, or what the idea is. My opponent doesn't really, they're not really going to have any other good cards other than Hangerback Walker. So this is potentially their entire game plan. Other than, of course, using Elspeth, Knight Errant, or something like that to keep making tokens, and then the tokens can help protect their other cards. Looks like they're just going to pump Hangerback. Oh, okay. You know what? That actually makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Alright, let's let it attack. I'm going to Heroes Downfall it, though. I'm going to preserve our life total. Oops. Yeah. Cool. So I think I do have to Damnation now, or my opponent's still going to continue to 5-ball me. It is going to mean my opponent has answered the Abyss. A token maker does answer the Abyss here. But then we can Liliana to answer their answer. So if my opponent follows up with a threat, we can Liliana them right back. Okay, and if they don't draw a threat, we can start ticking Liliana up. The other option is to wait one more turn. But if we play Liliana and tick it up here, they're going to answer it with an Elspeth tick up. So let's wrath the board. Damnation it is. This is generally what I try to do with my combo decks, is I make them into control decks so that they're a little less easier to hate them out. So my opponent needs to have a threat right here, but even if they do, we can Liliana minus this turn, and then Liliana plus all subsequent turns. If they just make a token, we're in good shape. As long as we can dodge Avenger of Zendikar, which my opponent does not have enough mana to cast. Regrowth, Hangerback. Recast, Hangerback. Okay. Alrighty. We got a game, boys. Opponent plays Hangerback for 2. And they're going to protect against Liliana. That's a little unlucky too, but definitely the correct play. The Abyss is going to do nothing here. So we can Grim Tutor. Not sure what Grim Tutor really gets for us. Didn't bring in Sweltering Suns. It would be great here. You were right, Trash Hermit. Could just go for Bazaar. Could put a Liliana into play and tick it up. Binning a... Oh yeah, what if we bin Sphinx of the Steelwind? Next turn we'll be able to exhume it. Still not great. Next turn we exhume it, so they'll get back Termagoyf. Is Ulamog better? Will Ulamog give us enough time? Next turn we... Oh, downfalling Elspeth. That was an option, wasn't it? That's an interesting play. We're definitely still in a fine position here. Liliana's going to bin one of these two creatures. We just have to figure out which creature we're discarding. We get to reanimate it next turn. I feel like I'm going to want the pro-green lifelinker. It's also going to buy us some time because my opponent's going to have to send an Elspeth Hangerback Walker at Liliana. Which means my life total will remain 13. Ulamog doesn't have a reach, though. Yeah, I think we have to bin Sphinx of the Steelwind here. If we discard Ulamog, our opponent can pump this in the air twice. We also have the choice between a few different exhume options. We could either get Exhume, which brings back Termagoyf, or Animate Dead, which gives Sphinx of the Steelwind one less attack. Yeah, I'm going to go for Sphinx. Both survive the Abyss. We're going to go down to 10 when we cast Grim Tutor, which means we don't want to reanimate this. We'll have one turn where my opponent can't... Well, never mind. Now Hangerback Walker is actually going to threaten Sphinx of the Steelwind and trade with Sphinx of the Steelwind just from a pump. My opponent might just go for it here. Pump up. And attack face. But that doesn't give them next turn lethal. So I don't think that they will. This is attacking Liliana the Veil. Alright, so Lily's down. She was a discard outlet that gained 6 life. Sometimes that's all you can ask for. Yeah, so what's awkward now is when my opponent pumps with this. Huh. Yeah, Entomb doesn't get us anywhere. We can just Grim Tutor because we are short on black mana because we grabbed this mountain. Oh well. Just playing around another potential, like, Acidic Slime or something effect. So yeah, our options are Exhume, which brings back Tarmogoyf, or Animate Dead, which means we don't trade with Hangerback. It can't even swing with the Tarmogoyf. Yeah, Tarmogoyf's going to be a dead card. Oh, they're just going to lose Tarmogoyf immediately to the Abyss. Alright, let's grab Exhume. Entomb my Blightsteel. Yeah, that play might not be all it's cracked up to be. Grab Sphinx of the Steelwind. And now we have to see if a Vigilant Lifelinker can race a growing, flying Hangerback Walker plus Elspeth. One thing, you know what? If we can use Hangerback Walker to kill Elspeth, I think that might help us too. We do have to race Elspeth Emblem too. My opponent's going to take up Elspeth to 8. Termagoyf's going to die on my opponent's upkeep to Abyss. Sphinx of the Steelwind is probably going to not block Hangerback Walker, as my opponent will It's a really weird card online. You have to click it even though your opponent chooses the targets, because you have to click spells that have targets when you put them on the stack. But it's a really weird card in that it actually does target, even though it doesn't really target. All right, so Tarmogoyf was dealt with. Entomb was definitely the right pickup there. If my opponent... Okay, my opponent is going to pump. We're going to take 6, drop down to 4. That is not worth losing Sphinx of the Steel Wind here. My opponent would then get 3 indestructible artifact tokens that I'm already having trouble dealing with. They play a card that doesn't have much use. I can grab an Entomb here, but Sphinx of the Steel Wind, I think, can win this race. It's going to be really close for sure. If ever we realize we aren't winning this race, we still could chump block, but I think we win this race. We get to kill Elspeth in 2 hits, at which point we're out damaging Hangerback Walker because we are gaining more life each turn than the damage it's dealing. Right now we're just at parity. We are taking as much damage as they are dealing. End of turn, I'm going to Entomb my Iona. Probably should have done it the previous turn. Alright, yeah, I think we're doing it here. This is a crazy game. And a lot can still happen, but pro green makes me feel a little bit safe too. Iona would also be a 7/7 or a 6/7 if I draw Animate Dead. I don't know what color I'd name with Iona. But I think I want to Entomb it just so that way I can't draw it. Alright, we take this, drop down to 4 again. Because we're going to Entomb it eventually anyways. Massacre Worm is a much better live draw. Go down to 4 again. We're going to be killing Elspeth on our turn, which I think just means we win the race. Opponent played a Razor Verge. They didn't play the card that they had in their hand last turn. And what is it? It is a Garruk Relentless. Well, they can try to start out-tokening the Abyss now. Oh, that would have been really funny. Maybe they drew Razor Verge Thicket last turn. Alright, they're going to make a Wolf token. That's going to get sacrificed to the Abyss. There's some really interesting plays my opponent could potentially make. They could make a Soldier token, and then they could fight the Soldier token. Yeah, let's put Iona in the bin. If we draw a Blightsteel, or not a Blightsteel, a Through the Breach, that is likely to be lethal as well. Bazaar of Baghdad seems pretty solid as well. Yeah, I'm going to go for Bazaar here, see what we find. Hymn to Turok and Imperial Cereal. Well, Hymn to Turok doesn't do anything. Ulamog's worth more in our graveyard. I think we have enough life points here to Imperial Seal. These wolf tokens don't do anything. Once we kill Elspeth, we can even block Hangerback Walker. So I think our life total is going to be high enough that we can Imperial Seal, go get a reanimation spell for Ulamog or Iona. Yeah, that's fine. I'll go to 8. My opponent will make a few 2/2s here with their Mirari's Wake. They'll make 2 2/2s. So we could like try to get Massacre Worm or something like that at some point. But I think just Imperial Sealing and reanimating, or just giving ourselves the option to reanimate one of these threats, seems good enough. For that, what do we want? Probably not Shallow Grave. I think we just grab Necromancy. What else would we want? Yeah, I'll grab Necromancy here. Yeah, there's ways that they could get more 3/3s in that. It's actually kind of awkward too is Their Hangerback Walker is too big. They can't flip their Garruk yet. They could attack... The reason I said 2/3/3s is because, like, they have to attack into it to even pop the Hangerback Walker. Not that they want to proactively do that either. And then, like, they could flip, because they're 2/2s, they could flip that. All right, our opponent's going to give us the match here. We definitely had it. Next turn, we get to Necromancy out in Iona or an Ulamog, both of which would have been really powerful threats. Hell, we could have even gone for the... Oh, no, we couldn't have gone for the Pack Rat. It's exiled. And... Where was the Blightsteel? Does that card shuffle back in? All right, we need to go back to the drawing board